Hey everybody, welcome back to We're Not Dead Yet, episode 3. I'm your host, Curt Schilling, co-host Brian Youse. What's up, B?
Hey, how's it going? Another fun Sunday. No actual injuries, putting me near the death, so I'm gonna put my death count at possibly less than 50.
On the medical side, we have good news. I am a grandfather for the second time. Nolan Donald Schilling was born yesterday. 7 pounds, I think 7 pounds, 1 ounce, 20 inches, healthy, 10
I
fingers, 10
thought you
toes.
said 7 pound 9 ounces, but
Okay, 7 pound 9.
it's
Yeah,
great.
whatever. He looks good. He's got
Yeah,
a permanent scowl. He's got a little scowl on his face, which I approve. I think he's left-handed. Early indications are that he is. So, that's a plus. And he's going to be a big forechecking defenseman in hockey, probably. So we got that going for us. Anyway, everybody's doing well. Mom's good, healthy, baby's healthy, and we're here.
you're
We're
excited.
back.
Of course you're excited.
Huh?
Said you're excited. Of course you're excited.
Yeah. Oh,
Got
yeah.
another
Yep.
male to carry on the Schilling name.
Yep.
You'll have to pass down a crispy clear 10-2 and slightly lavender colored Schilling counter to him.
Right. Right.
Maybe frame it, put it on his wall.
You guys
A
still
little.
screwed me on that one.
No. Should have won rock, paper, scissors. That's all I have to say.
You screwed me. Aslog's coming up, guys. 6 weeks. But first,
But
we have a
first,
contest winner.
our first contest. And it's funny because when this email response came in, I had something to say about this gentleman, Mr. Perry Spiropoulos. Perry, who called it Skippy Smooth. Perry Spiropoulos. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I know I'm not. Who calls it Skippy Smooth? Let's be honest, Perry. It's Skippy Creamy. It's not smooth. It's still very, very frightening. We'll be real quick. Actually, you know what? We'll wait till the end of the podcast to say what next week's
Yes.
word is going to be. However, Perry, I want you to know you got a Hazel Pocket Rulebook jetting off to you tomorrow morning, Monday. Go ahead and make the common joke that everyone does about shipping on Monday, but in this case, it's actually true.
Yes.
Congratulations. I hope you enjoy it. It weighs exactly 4 pounds. So with a box, it's going to cost a fortune to ship, in case you're reading that thread on Facebook as well. Congratulations. It's a heck of a product. It's so much work went into that. I can't even begin to describe.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy it.
That was
Anyway,
the only thing I was looking forward to more than that was the e-version.
I don't have either right now,
No, of
which
course you don't.
why
Why would
would
you have
I?
rule
I,
books?
I don't have time to play Hazels. I'm busy
Right.
playtesting. So let's move on.
Yeah, we're going
Hey,
Aslok. Aslok's about 6 weeks,
okay.
somewhere in that area. And we're planning 3 products for Aslok. Gary Fortenberry's Action Pack, which tentative title, if I'm not mistaken, Blitzkrieg to Paris.
That
Not
sounds
positive, but I
correct.
think
I
that's
think
it.
we all agreed on that.
Um, and then Pete Schilling and Brett Hildebrand's Aslok Action Pack will be coming out then as well. And we're frantically editing J16 to get that. J16 is going to be a monster. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 scenarios with a lot of ASL World Championship. We just got Mike McGrath's article on the scenarios that we're actually talking and walking through. A bunch of the other premier players have written some stuff or will write some stuff. There's a Bishop stuff. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Carpet Airfield, Hazel, little mini Hazel. But yeah, we're planning on having those 3 products available at ASLOC this year, and we're excited about it. And then right now, I think, jump on me if I'm wrong, Bri, we're looking at Marco Polo Bridge sometime before Christmas,
True. That can
and
happen before Christmas.
Kharkov
Kharkov's in Flames
in
at
Flames
Winter
in
Offensive,
January.
assuming we find a date for Winter Offensive. We have not done so yet. It's on my hot list to do in the next 2 weeks. I hope I can achieve that goal. Um, One thing you were talking about premier players. We had intended to have a very premier player, J.R. Tracy, on tonight. Apparently, JR got hit by real life in a 1-2 punch. He was supposed to take his wife out for her birthday dinner, all of which was upset when his mother-in-law had an accident and had to go into the hospital. JR, we're thinking about you. We hope your mother-in-law is okay. We hope your wife understands and enjoys a pudding cup at the hospital cafeteria for her birthday dinner.
And while we're reviewing this scenario, JR's name will come up. And JR, just so you know, when you're listening, we will not be mocking you. We will merely be pointing out that even the best players in the world make mistakes.
Which ironically, probably not ironically is the wrong word, which probably cost him the game. It was
I
super close.
yeah. Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Yep.
You
And
hang in
with
for a
that,
little.
we'll go into our review. This is round 3 of the ASO World Championship. We're moved over to the PTO in a scenario called Earned, Not Given, featuring the United States Army against the Japanese in a control DC. But the U.S. have board 42 with the U.S. entering was the board, I think, 38, but no water. Was it? I think it was light jungle, huts and wooden buildings. Japanese have a gun. Garrigle put the or the star card you should have already seen. And yeah, so this was one that Brian, you and I play tested a lot, and I think we really both really like this scenario.
Yeah, this scenario reminds me a lot of Totsugeki, which is one of my top 3 scenarios, quite honestly. You have the defensive position that the Japanese need to really think about. Their special abilities are going to possibly get them through to the end, but the most important thing could possibly be gun placement, gun usage, etc. Unlike Totsugeki, you don't have to capture a gun to win the scenario. In fact, the Americans will win this at game end by controlling greater than equal to 8 building, rubble, collapsed hut hexes on board 42. I'm sure Garrick will throw up a board 42 so you can see what we're looking for. The key to this is going to be the east-west road that runs from A6 to, what is that, P4, I guess. Because there's some huts below that road, but you're going to have to cross that road as the Americans to get the victory condition. Can the Japanese use that open ground to really hammer the Americans? That's what it's going to boil down to, probably.
And if
Um,
Go ahead.
Go, nope, go.
No, I was going to say, if you look at the map on board 42, there were a lot of early play tests that saw the gun hip in J4, or I4, I'm sorry,
I4.
I4,
Yep.
with the thought of interdicting the road. Come to find out that I9, and now that I'm looking at it on this map, I
Wow.
don't see the woods,
Neither do I. That's amazing. We
but
played that the
yeah,
I-9 road was clear so that a gun in I-4 could shoot all the way down to, Y8 on the other board without any bother by the orchards until we actually strung it once. I think it was on the actual map, or was it on the
no, on
map?
the actual map, the woods go over the hex center dot,
Yeah,
so it's
it's
blocked.
like a pixel. It's tiny, but we play tested this for the balance of it, not the initial play test, that you could not shoot down the road in I-9 because the woods artwork would block it. It was that close though.
Yep.
Um, I would recommend if you're playing the game, play it that way. It makes it more plausible for the Americans to recover if one side will get spanked, because then they can run some guys over or a leader over if they have to. Otherwise, you place a heavy in I3 or a gun in I4, and you just cut the board in half.
Yeah.
And it's kind of brutal when that happens.
Well, and the other thing is I think the reason you end up moving into I4 is you're already going to be suffering from 2 hindrances with the I6, I8, the orchard and the brush or whatever it is. But, and we mentioned earlier, this was the quarterfinals. So you had 8 players still vying for the championship, and J.R. Tracy got beat in this scenario because, and this is a great lesson for everybody, because even the best players in the world make mistakes. He set up his gun in F3, Foxtrot 3, which is against the rules. Huts are treated like wooden buildings, and you can't do that. And it wasn't until later in the game that they found that. He, as JR is, he just took the gun off and said, let's play. But he lost this lawyer, and that gun never had an impact on the game, which was a problem. And I don't know if he would have lost anyway, but it certainly didn't help him. From the Americans' perspective, Brian, one of the things that we always tried to weigh is, do you go student body left or student body right, or do you go 50-50? The jungle on the right can be dangerous because of the Japanese hip, and you certainly are going to be running stacks through there until you're running your American half squads through there. Also, all Japanese defenders get to set up entrenched if in entrenchment terrain. And for the most part, if you look at the map, you're looking at 8 victory locations on the south of the road, south of the A5, P5 road, P4, P5 road. So for the Americans don't even have to get across the road. However, I saw it, all the games that I watched played out differently, obviously, but a lot of the Americans that tried to flank the left or right and take some of the buildings in the back area, because it's a little bit of a challenge to defend. From an American's perspective, if you have to start off obviously in whole hexes. The Japanese in B9 and E10 or C10 or D9 can screw up an American attack. The Americans, what is it, 6.5 turns, I think?
Yeah, 6.5 turn.
Yeah, so you got 7 movement phases to go basically 6 hexes with that kind of firepower. But it's hard. The thing I always realize is even though you say 7 turns to move 6 hexes, people don't play that patiently. And if assault move advance, and all those things, you can get there. But the Japanese, with close combat and all the things that go with it, have to use every trick in the Japanese book. They've got mediums. A lot of the players played the Japanese balance that I saw, which was adding a medium and a crew.
Yeah, I
But
think that there was 4 games played of this in the
right,
tournament. Some other guys
right,
played it in the consolation bracket. And I believe 3 out of the 4 American people that wanted the Americans gave up the Japanese balance, which, as Curt said, was an extra crew and a medium. That's a pretty big balance. I mean, a
yeah.
medium machine gun in a scenario like this against Americans it could be deadly. Here's one of the parts where I'm going to talk about JR briefly. He hipped his guy in A7 and his medium and crew. And despite the Americans running plenty of people down the B hex row, he did not reveal that guy and shoot. Could have had an 8 down 2, I think it was, or a 4 down 2 easily. And he just, bided his time. The obvious play there is to have the hip guy pop out and grab a building after the Americans think they've taken it. And you've got a really nasty crew behind you that isn't likely to go away quickly. So now you might be messing up route paths and things like that. He played that part brilliantly. I thought he did great.
Yeah.
And then I thought he revealed it a turn too early. I was really hoping he was going to be on tonight so I could ask him why he revealed it on that turn. And I'm sure that, when we do get him on, he'll gladly talk about it.
And he's
Um,
writing he's writing a summary of the stuff too, so I'm sure he'll talk about that as well. I thought
well,
that
let's
that
hope he
crew
takes the
and
cue.
medium got revealed because the American broke and tried to route back into the woods.
I
But
don't remember that happening.
yeah, yeah, no, I could be wrong, but I thought I was stunned because we were broadcasting the game or we were talking about the game, and we were just kind of marveling at the fact that this medium and the leader and the crew just sat there. And the Americans never once tried to get into A7, which I don't know if you should have or could have or that, but with Japanese hip, presents a whole slew of potential problems.
Yeah, you're not gonna search. I mean, especially later in the game. I think he was playing Ron. I don't know if Ron had lost track of how many Japanese units had been revealed. Good players do stuff like that. They have a count in their head of what is still hip out there. It's easy when you just have like 2 guns and 2 crews. It's a lot harder with the Japanese because it could be anything. It could be a full squad, a leader, and a sword weapon. It might be 2 crews. It could literally be anything. I've played this against Curt in playtest where I would hip the heavy, the 10-1. I think it's a 10-1. Let me pull the scenario card back up. I would hip the heavy, the 10-1, 2 crews, a medium, the 9-1. I mean, and I would just have dummies out there.
Right.
So you're leaving a lot of force off the map. One thing we probably should talk about is the gun. Pete Schilling, who designed the scenario. Good job, Pete. Was my favorite out of the 5. Not that you're designing scenarios to make me happy, but that's okay. It's a nice side effect. He put his foot down on that 105 because we wanted to drop it to a 75 star because a whole column difference on hits, and there will be hits generally, can cause significant damage to the
It
Americans.
started out
And
as 2 150s.
well, they had a whole different role. The initial scenario, they were every turn that they didn't shoot scored victory points because they were
Right.
bombing off in the distance. But
They
there
were
was
facing the other direction.
yeah, it became kind of gamey, a gamey bug hunt aspect to find these artillery pieces, and we just didn't like it. So we convinced Pete that it might be better to have the guns in the fight, like I'm sure they were at the end. But, yeah, then there was 2 105s, so, wow, was it pro-Japanese in our opinion when that was the case. Then we dropped it to 175, and Pete was like, "No, no, guys, this has to be a 105." That was the
Right.
gun that was there. So, we bit our tongue and said, "Okay, Pete, we'll put it back. We wanna keep the designers happy,"
And that
and
turned out to be the right move.
it turned out to be the
The
right move.
thing that we really did was, I think towards the end, we really beefed up the leadership on both sides.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it was just bizarre. We were having wide swings and everything. Now, you get that 10-1, you get that heavy, and they're like, you in one of the 3 good buildings, not huts,
right,
and it's practically a little Alamo. I mean,
right.
a 10-1, all he has to do is pass these morale checks, and then those crews are like 10s themselves, and it's just crazy how much they can shake off.
Well, and it's different in the sense that it's not your traditional American attacker or defender where you're just trying as the opponent trying to get morale checks. These are 7 morale Americans with enormous firepower and tremendous leadership with 10-2, 9-1, 8-1, 7-0. One of the I think in this 3rd or 4th game we played, you did kind of an MNO right end around going up into that brush, the field up top,
Yeah, I
which
was abs Go ahead.
yeah. And I say that because I was trying to figure out the optimal place for I love the Japanese mortar. It's fun, it's versatile. It can, obviously has a huge impact when there's potential airburst everywhere around the perimeter. But I was trying to figure out, I thought Mike 3 was a good place for it to kind of stop the end around a little bit, or at least prevent it, and also interdict in the middle. Then in the last one we played, I think I put it in G8. I've also seen it in D6, F5, but you've got the tree line roadway, which hinders all fire that isn't down the road line. But that to me was a neat little piece of defense that I think has an optimal position. The place I ultimately think it proved to be the best deterrent was Lima 3, L3, giving it clear lines of fire, but down towards the kind of southwest and southeast, as well as, and it's manned by a half squad, I think. I don't think it's manned by a crew. Yeah, it's manned by a half squad. So
I personally am a big fan of giving those Japanese mortars to, squads because they're they keep their inherent firepower while they're shooting the mortar,
right,
and that way once the mortar's done, you're not likely to just run up on the half squad, take a piddling little FPF shot or subsequent first fire shot, and survive that. Looking at the Vassal map as we're talking, and I got rid of all the units and counted, and there actually are 8 buildings south of the road.
right.
Um, I think 8, 9 was kind of where we were
Well,
the
remember
dividing line.
we were at 8, but one had to be north of the road.
I don't
And
Did we leave that in?
no, we took that out and just said 8.
Okay. So you can get 8. I think it's pretty hard, despite the huge amount of troops difference, you're gonna find at the end, the Americans probably are pretty beat up. Lots of broken guys running around or just beat up. I'm not sure you're gonna get 8. A lot of people will go like, "Hey, diddle diddle, all my Americans up the middle," and ignore the B6, B7 buildings, hoping that they become available as like a cheap pickings.
Right.
You have a concealed unit over there, just keep them in C7. That'll keep the Americans at bay probably for a little while.
Well, I also like the fact that if you're new to the PTO and you want to figure out why the Japanese are so good, this is a scenario to play. They don't die. They eventually die, but they don't break. They just casualty reduce. And that's a big deal going from a 4 to a 3 to a 2. But the Americans are pumping out 16s like there's no tomorrow. And with that leadership, they can get on you pretty hard. That's why I said that's why I think they have enough to go left and right from a force perspective. But I also think 7 turns is potentially enough to go if you angle up, because if you look at the map, the setup board for the Americans, X9, W10, and AA10 are all swamp marsh crap hexes. So you've got to go around them, remembering the water is empty, is open ground, which can screw up if the Japanese sets up first, not realizing that it can completely hose this scenario. It's one of those things you got to pay attention to the SSRs
For sure.
because the Americans can run from S9 on the setup map, CXing all the way into deep into the jungle in turn one.
Another thing the Americans have to think about, just to throw all sorts of stuff out there, and let's see what sticks on the wall. They can deploy 2 squads at the start because they have 13 units. They also have 4 leaders. That means they can probably deploy at least 4 more squads pretty easily.
Right.
Certainly 2 or 3 of them are going to go pretty easily. I've played this scenario multiple times, deploying at least half of my squads, getting down to where I had maybe 6 squads with the mediums and a bunch of half squads running around, because it doesn't hurt so much if a hip guy kills you because you're only going to lose a half squad instead of a squad. And if I'm jumping on crews in close combat, or even flipped, what do you got? Flip 447s, it's still 1-to-1.
Right.
Um, there can be a lot of Americans on the map. You should consider it. I'm
Or
not
three
saying
to
it's
two on the cruise. You're right. I think with a Japanese defender with hip and with dummy stacks, the more American half squads, the better, because that's how you want to find all that stuff. You don't want to find it with a not the 10-2 and 2 mediums and 2 6-6-7s. You want to be able to find it with and I think what that does is that kind of puts emphasis on JR's defense, which is as you have to pick your shots as the Japanese defender when you're going to pop that hip guy up. How you're going to are you going to completely use dummies on one flank and hold firm the other flank because you're gambling he's not going to set up an overload aside. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't think I utilize it enough against the Japanese, but the Americans with that leadership, you could have what 12 half squads, literally 12 half squads turn one.
It's certainly something to consider. It can be an overwhelming kind of green wave, and I have no problems at all running a half squad into a concealed Japanese unit to strip concealment. There's no reason not to do that. I don't recall. Let me check real quick. We do not have a CVP cap on this. I mean, the Americans can win by that 10-2 and a half squad, killing 10-1 and a 2-2-8 in a close combat on the last turn, and
Well,
nothing
and
else will come out.
I
So,
also think being on the right side in that jungle, I think every scenario the Japanese had to hit something somewhere between J and O, 9 and 10.
right.
Just to do that. I think I saw a lot of the better players. They had that hip guy in the jungle would be in the J hex row or in the K hex row, because the American one student body left, they were going to be able to get across the map and be of some use to the defensive positions on the left side.
My preference certainly is student body left.
But the other thing is, and I think every single scenario we played, B had the same thing. You got into the J7, K7, L6, M6, or I did, and then it was how do I get across the open ground of those 3 buildings?
Yep.
And that's
It's
where I think. Go ahead.
even weak shots will flip flip the Americans. 2 down 1 on an assault move, they're gonna flip. I don't know that we use smoke enough. The Americans being smoke exponent 3. I don't think I use smoke enough. I try to use it as much as I can. Sometimes you forget about it. That extra movement point it might cost you sometimes knocks your plan askew. But, if you're moving squads, you don't want to risk losing squads to a down 1 shot if you can help it. Sometimes you have to. I mean, we've all had that time where you've got to sacrifice a squad in the hopes that the enemy shoots and now they can't shoot at bigger squads that need to move. That's a legit tactic. I mean, I don't know any of the wives of any of the people involved on these cardboard counters.
Yeah.
Um, I try to play them hard and, come home wet with them.
One of the other things is I look at this, and we're both looking at this Vassal map that has a Japanese setup. I think the artillery piece belongs on the other side of the road, number one. I don't care where you put it, E4, I4, G3, maybe on the hill in D3, covering the left side, I don't know. But the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that all of the Japanese infantry needs to be set up in or south of Hex Row 5 in the buildings.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you have to force I think you have to force the U.S. Army to get to the end game with as little firepower as possible, because we saw a lot of, or at least I did, I saw a lot of the J1, I3, J3 buildings came into play when the Japanese had a guy in I3, 10-1 with a heavy and a crew. The Americans needed one of those three buildings on the other side of the road. With 11 half squads, you could run one guy, draw fire, run another guy, draw whatever. But I think you have to avoid the Americans getting any sort of enforced group of units across the road because you're done at that point.
I can see that. C3. I just don't know, or G3 or D3. I just don't know about putting the gun up on that hill. I can't
You know what?
decide if I
The
like it
hill
or not.
came into play, huh?
I don't know if I like it or not because really it this becomes block. What is? I'm sorry, not this. You can't see the map. E4 becomes a block when you're shooting to the east. You can definitely hammer the buildings that are victory point buildings in the B hex row,
Right.
and do damage to those guys. I just think if you keep it someplace between G4 and L3, you're going to be able just to hammer a lot more positions,
Well,
and that gun could be huge.
I think the thing that you think about, for me, I think about is, listen, I know you'd like to think putting it in a hex like I4 is going to give it 4, 5, 6, 8 shots a game. But a good American player, number one, is not going to expose his units to that. Number one, and number two, he's going to throw the 10-2 with whatever you can throw the 10-2 with to kill that hex, to kill that crew, to break that crew, do whatever. And the only way I'd go into D3 is with the C4 D4 covered arc, have it as my left flank protector,
Yeah.
and maybe a squad, maybe two on this side at most, and then I'd have everything else in force on my right, or my left is the Japanese. Well, I mean, we saw some games where it didn't even. You and I played some games where it never got a shot, but that's risking, right? D3, and everybody comes on the right side of the map. It's useless.
Well, people need to understand that, by the time you and I have played this scenario 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 times, we're looking for trick places to put the gun in the hopes that you don't expect it. Because once you've played it that many times, it's
Yeah,
pretty easy to look at the setup and just go, oh, I think the gun's going to be here. Oh, I think the gun's going to be
right.
there.
It's a
Um,
circled M8. I mean, is it movable? Yeah, you
with a
know,
little bit of oomph, I guess.
but
You
I
could
mean, obviously you lose your
you
emplacement,
can move
but
it a little bit. Of course,
if
then you lose your emplacement, and that
D3 and he
emplacement's a
loads
pretty
up
big
on the
deal.
right, you could move it down to E4.
The one thing it does, though, is it intensifiers. So if you did put that on D3 with C4, D4 as its covered arc, and left like a squad in the I think B6 building or something, it could really slow the Americans down by placing residual with a couple of hits. If you're lucky, you get rate of fire. But even if you don't, you could take 2 shots with it.
Right.
It's a key piece, but it's not a game breaker if it's
No,
gone. I mean,
no.
JR
But
nearly won his scenario in my
well,
opinion.
and if you think about it, JR's got this A7 leader crew medium. He's got the gun in D3 and he pounds the guys in B6 and breaks them or kills them. Last bottom of Japanese turn 6, reveal the hip guy, march in, or kill the guys for failure to route there and just march into the hex in the bottom. I mean, that's extrapolating a lot, but it would be it would have been better. He would have been better served getting at least a shot from it. But yeah, no, that's just. But there's a lot of variables, and guys like, and we've talked about this. Brian, I've talked about this with the first two. This one is I think definitely another play, switch sides, play again, and I think you definitely find nuances to these first three scenarios you do not and cannot see that first time if you're an average player.
I'm a firm believer this scenario is going to see a lot of play, and down the road, it's going to be one of those that's got 100 playings easy reported on Roar. Where, by the way, everybody should be reporting their scenarios getting played. That's how we're going to be seeding all sorts of tournaments in the future. So please
Well,
use your
and the more importantly, as we work to continue to spit shine the playtest process, the more roar plays that we can get a hold of, the better. I've had, and Brian and I've been playtesting literally 3 to 5 times a week for 2 years.
Well, if you ask my
Um,
wife, it's 7 times a week for 2
yeah,
years.
and if you ask mine, it's 8 days a week, 366 days a year. But what we're trying to do is take advice from the really good players, which number one is, you know what, let's make the balances a little meatier, because very rarely do two same talent level players sit across the table from each other. And so we're not projecting the balance as let's break the 50-50 tie and make it 51-49, which is kind of what some of the balances that I've done feel like. More of, hey, listen, dude, this is your second game. I've been playing for 4 years. You take the balance, and the balance being meaty enough to have an impact on the outcome in a scenario and allow a player of lesser skill to maybe beat a better player because of the balance change. And so roar is a big deal. When we look on roar and you see a scenario that's got 40 planes and it's 35-5, well, you know what? Well, we need to readdress something, or we're doing something wrong.
I
But
agree.
that's a big deal for us. We pay attention to that.
So, hopefully you guys will like and subscribe the page first, obviously.
Yes,
And
please.
then please comment on your thoughts about the scenario. Even if you haven't seen it, just some of the things we're saying. We're definitely curious
And
more.
and by the way, if you play it, let us know if some were full of shit, or if some of the things we're saying had merit, or if you use one of our setups and get your ass kicked, make sure you tell Brian that he was wrong.
I'm fairly certain my suggestions are literally manna from heaven. So you might want to listen to me. You don't have to, but you might want to.
Yeah, guys, we're trying to grow this. You guys have been amazing. I think we're almost at 600 subscribers, which is phenomenal, and we're trying to get to 1,000. So spread the word, spread the links. We're going to keep doing this. Like I said, I think over the next couple of weeks, one of our episodes we're going to live stream. I think it'd be fun to live stream and take questions and comments from viewers as they watch. But we're all in a situation where real life doesn't and football season starting, so I doubt very many people want to hang out with us talking ASL in lieu of Sunday Night Football. But we are way more entertaining than Eli and Peyton. And yeah, so subscribe and
Yeah.
check us out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
next week's contest, Brian.
So we thought long and hard about this, and there can only be one true place to eat when you're tired of playing ASL. Hints are in the pictures. Send me the name of where I'm likely to get any meal, quite frankly, and we'll pull a number at random. And next week, I think we're giving away a chef de pont. So if you'd like a chef de pont, a CDP, let us know. Take that $2 out of Ken Dunn's hand because he won't get a royalty payment on a zero sale, but that's okay. He's all right with that. And we'll see how that goes. But I'm just saying, there's hints all over as to where I like to go eat after playing ASL.
That is
Um,
Brian Youse's Morton Steakhouse right
yeah,
there.
right. They have steaks, and you can get it in less time for a fraction of the cost. And they're open during hurricanes, so there's literally no loss with the restaurant I'm talking about. By the way, I don't get paid for this. I tried. I have a Waffle House tattoo. Oh, tattoo. I'm glad I said that. It reminds me.
All
At
right, guys.
WBC,
You guys have a great week. We'll catch you guys next Sunday, and
wait a minute, time out. This is a legit
send that
question.
email to Brian.
This is a legit
Take care, guys. Have
question.
a great week.
Don't hang up yet. Somebody at WBC came up and asked for permission to do an MMP tattoo. If you happen to be watching, please send us a picture of that too the tattoo when you get it done. Thank you. You can
Yes.
mail it to whatever the podcast address is, podcast at mmpgamers.com. I'm sure Garrett will throw that on the screen. That's all I got. Episode 3 in the books. I like it. Print it.
You guys. Yep. See you guys next week.
Take care, guys.